Hello everyone, welcome to the Hub Football Chat episode 2. This week I'm joined by Lewis Bloom, who is the Elite Development Academy Manager at Wycombe Wanderers. Hope you enjoy it. See you all soon.
So first of all, can you tell us briefly about your coaching career to date and how it all started for you?
In terms of my coaching career, I guess, I'll start where I started. I was about 16 when I first started coaching. It was with I was on a program at the JMA, the John Madesi Academy of Football Studies program, where we played and we also got our coaching badges and qualifications as well. And that was where I sort of first got my introduction to coaching. I did my level 1 there. I did my level 1 when I was 16. My level 2 the year after when I was 17. And then that was really sort of where my coaching career, I guess, started. From there, I did a little bit of experience with the school itself, went out to different primary schools and did a bit of coaching there. That was my first sort of real insight into coaching an actual session. But yeah, that was where it started really. From there, I spoke to Rivo. So Rivo is obviously the Bucks and Bucks coach development officer. Coach development officer at the moment with Bucks and Bucks. He was actually one of my coaches when I was growing up. And so I spoke to him when I was 17, when I got my level 2, and said sort of, where do I go? What do I do to get myself a career in coaching? Did a bit of work experience with him when he was at Reading. Went over and did I think it was like a talent ID sort of day where they had loads of players come in and I was helping with selecting some of the talented individuals in that process. So that was a good insight. He then
in terms for you, that sort of foundations laid for obviously JMA on that sort of course. There's even players and coaches come out of that course all the time. Did it lay good foundations for you? And then obviously going into a community environment again probably taught you a lot about coaching, didn't it, in the early stages?
Yeah, I think like in terms of the course at JMA, that was probably the first time that I'd ever really experienced sort of top level coaching, if that makes sense. And taught me a lot about the game. Was Butch? Is it Butch that ran it? Yeah, Tristan Lewis and Michael Butcher. Or Butch. So that was sort of where, because that was, like I said, that was my first insight into sort of learning the game properly, if you like. I played sort of grassroots football, and I was even playing men's football at 16. But learning the game that way, the different sort of tactical knowledge and technical knowledge that they had, that was just a whole new sort of way of thinking for me. So yeah, learned a lot there. That was a sort of foundation as to the start of my technical and tactical understanding, as well as sort of the coaching side as well, which was the other side of the course. And so that was like the start, if you like.
Good. And where did you move on to after that?
So after that, like I said, I was speaking to River about sort of what I should do, and he recommended going to uni, which was never really sort of on my radar, to be honest, at the time. It was sort of my family had never been to uni and stuff like that, so that's my sort of background. None of my sort of family members had ever been to university, so I'd never really thought of it as an option. And Rivo said about going to uni, and I sort of thought, yeah, do you know what? And I started speaking to some of my teachers at school and stuff, and said sort of, what can I expect? What do I need to do to be able to get there? And that was the sort of the start of my journey, if you like. And they pushed me in the right direction and told me sort of what coaching qualifications that I want to try and get, and what A levels and stuff that I need to go on and do that. So
and you went to Chichester, is that right?
Yeah, Chichester University. So in fact, it's sort of weird because I was reading through some of your questions beforehand and planning around some of the later questions that we'll come on to. And when you start to think about your journey and stuff as a coach, and I actually applied to be a PE teacher. So I applied to university to be a PE teacher, went for the interview, and part of the interview was practical. So I did a coaching session, and then part of the interview was obviously formal sitting down and stuff. And the guy that was interviewing me said, actually, I think you're probably more suited towards coaching rather than teaching. And he pushed me onto the course that I went on and done. And then I graduated with that and went on to a master's as well in coaching. So that was sort of the university sort of route that I went down.
Very good, very good. Good course. Enjoyed it?
Yeah, fantastic, to be fair. Yeah, really good. Probably could have done with a little bit more practical, but that's probably me just speaking. I'd rather do practical than theory. Yeah, probably could have done a bit more practical, but no, it was a good course.
Good stuff. And then after that, you got an opportunity to go into a professional environment, didn't you?
Yeah, so, well, while I was at uni, I had to do a work placement, and my work placement with Reading. That was doing sort of holiday courses and stuff like that. I wanted to go into the more performance side of the coaching, sort of EDA or whatever they call it at the moment at advanced and elite centres. But at the time that I was doing my work placement, because I was at uni for the academic year, I had to do it during the summer. So that had all shut down. So but again, that was good grounding in terms of doing the sort of holiday camps and stuff like that, because you learn a lot on those courses. And just when you feel like, oh no, do you know what, I'm better than this, I should be doing this and that, and you think, no, actually this is where you get your grounding, this is sort of your bread and butter, if that makes sense.
This is where on a Tuesday you go and do an after school club holiday camp, and you plan for a session for 12, and you've got about 30 kids running around, and then you've got to try and adapt as quickly as you possibly can, and put on a session that's inclusive for all, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's invaluable. That experience is invaluable, and I'd recommend it to any coach that's starting out or anything like that. Just go and get yourself up there and coach as much as possible.
Yeah, exactly that, mate. Good stuff. And then what happened from there?
Yeah, so I did, like I said, work placement with Reading. Did a few studies with them, and did the rest of that was my sort of undergrad course, and then I had to get another work placement when I got onto my masters. And that was when I sort of spoke to, it was Chris Fraser at the time. I sent him my sort of letter of application and said, I'd love to come over and do some sessions with you guys. And this is what I'm doing at the moment with my masters. Luckily, they gave me the opportunity to come down on a Saturday morning club, which was a Saturday morning club that we still run. Went there and he said, right, you need to plan a session. You're coaching under sevens. And I was like, what? What do you mean under sevens? I was like, they can't even, like, they're not going to be able to kick a ball. They're not going to be able to do anything. And I went there and I was like gobsmacked. I was like, wow, these boys can really play. And that was the first insight I'd ever had into that sort of younger age group.
Yeah.
So yeah, went along there, did a few coaching sessions, and Chris said, I think you need to come and meet Kirk. He's our sort of EDA manager. He'd love to see you coach. And so I went along to the Elite Centre session. It was then at Burnham. And I was coaching with Kirk. Kirk was watching, and so was Rob, who's one of the senior coaches at Wickham as well. Did a coaching session with those guys, and Kirk said, we'd love you to come over and start coaching with the Elite Centre. So that was great experience. Did finish my work placement, finished my master's degree that summer. I was looking for jobs sort of elsewhere at the time because there was nothing at Wickham, and Kirk said, you know what, I think we might be able to sort of create an opportunity, or there might be an opportunity there for you to step in full time, which was when I started at Wickham full time and created the Girls Centre. So I've got a sort of girls development academy at the moment to run alongside the boys, and that was what I came in to create. And
I remember it was when I was working for the FA, and we sort of had sessions alongside you, and you were just starting up that girls section. And I think your first couple of trial sessions, you had like these girls turning out. From that to obviously now what you've created at Wickham, you must feel very proud of what you've created there.
Yeah, definitely. It's sort of my sort of little project and baby, if you like, and that's sort of where I started and pushed it all the way through. So it is fantastic to see where it's got to now, with the level of it and the players and stuff that we've helped to develop. It's crazy. So yeah, very, very proud of that program, and that will always be sort of my sort of project that I created and sort of my legacy, if you like, in terms of being at Wickham.
Yeah, good stuff. Right, and then after that, what happened?
So did that for what was it, 2 years, we're running the girls, solely with the girls, and then still coaching alongside that with the activity program. So still in schools doing coaching sessions, and coaching with the elite centre after that. Leading, I believe at the time it was probably sort of the younger age groups again, under eights and stuff like that, while also coaching the development under sort of 14s and stuff, because I said that was sort of the area that I wanted to go in, sort of coaching that sort of youth dev phase. So got experience doing that for 2 years, and then Chris had left, so Chris was our development centre manager, and I got the opportunity to step in and help run the sort of development centre. That was for a year I did that, and there was a lot of changes that we made at Wickham to sort of try to boost the quality of players and coaches. So we made a lot of changes. It was hard to do, especially being sort of quite young, moving in there with senior coaches that were a lot older than me and had a lot more experience and stuff, and we're trying to sort of move into not a different direction, but just trying to boost things up a little bit. So it was a tough first year, to be honest. But I think it was well worth it to see where we've come from at the start of that journey, to where we are now. What is it, 2 years later? It's great to see the sort of progress that we've been on, and like I said, now, so did Chris's role for a year, and now I'm sort of the EDA manager, so I look after sort of both well, all three pillars, if you like, elite development and the girls. So
very, very, very busy man.
Yeah, very.
And just for those watching, obviously the EDA is slightly different to an EPPP academy, and success for you is slightly different, isn't it? Can you just explain what success looks like for you?
Yeah, in terms of on the pitch, we'll come to that later. But success in general for us is there's a couple of different things that we look at, but for me, the ultimate success is pushing these players onto those academies. I think that's sort of the biggest one. We try to develop them as players and to be good people and to develop what we do, but ultimately I think that the ultimate sort of carrot, if you like, is pushing them on to bigger and better things, and being those sort of, especially the Cat 1 academies, pushing them into those ones.
Excellent.
Because in terms of our sort of level and where we're at, we hold our own with Cat 3 academies, Cat 2 academies anyway. But those sort of Cat 1s, we try to push them as far as we can go, and let's really sort of help these players to move on.
And this season, you've had some great success with some of the boys and girls going into good category 1 academies, haven't you?
Yeah, well, to be honest, this year I'm not sure what it is. It may be the changes that we've made. It may not be, but we've had about, roughly off the top of my head, I know that we hit 17. So we hit 17 players this season alone that have moved on. Some of them, not all of them, Cat 1 academies, but I'd probably say sort of 75% of them have been Category 1 academies that we've helped these players to progress to.
That's
which is
amazing.
Outstanding, really. And that's just this season. I think the overall number throughout the years, sort of before I was here as well, I'm pretty sure it'll be up in the hundreds now, to be honest.
Yeah. No, it's a great reputation, and I know firsthand it's a great place to develop players. So hats off to you. Well done.
No, good. Thank you very much. And like I said, to be fair, it's credit to the coaches that we've got. We've got an outstanding set of coaches. Obviously, you were there last year, and the coaches that we've got there, some of them are A licensed coaches. Some of them have been coaching longer than I've been alive. So
good.
A great wealth of experience.
Good. That will lead us nicely on to what I'm going to ask you next. Obviously, you've got a fantastic pool of coaches at Wickham, and like I said, you made some changes for the better, and you and Kirk have done a great job. So I'm just going to ask, what ingredients do you think make up a really good sort of development coach? Okay.
Obviously there's a lot that goes into that question in itself. There's a lot of ingredients that make a good coach, but when I was thinking about this question, when you sent it over the other day, I was listening to a podcast a few months ago now, in the car on my way to work. And one of the things that the guy said on the podcast was, if you break things down and make things really, really simple, what do we do as coaches?
Yeah.
He said 3 words: we coach kids football. And he used those 3 words, and he said, right, so to be a good coach, you have to know how to coach, which is a couple of things that I might touch on in a minute. But you need to know kids. You need to know the kids that you're coaching, but you also need to know kids in general, how they learn, what makes them tick. And then third, you need to know football. So you've got to have that sort of understanding of football and the technical and tactical knowledge there. But for me, that's probably the least important. It's the sort of being a communicator, being enthusiastic, meeting the players' needs. I think they're the sort of, that's when you see the top coaches. You'll see a number of coaches be able to say, right, this is where you need to be at this time, and this is the techniques of this skill and whatever. But the real coaching aspect for me is helping these players to actually learn and develop. And the way that you do that is how you're going to communicate that tactical understanding, how you're going to get across that technical knowledge, and how you translate that to the players. And that's coaching for me. So ingredients to make a good coach: you've got to understand how to coach. You need to know how to coach, and you need to know the kids.
Do you feel sometimes, I know obviously the youth modules and everything are amazing, and there's a lot of talk of letting the game be the teacher, but do you think sometimes we're getting too far that way, and sometimes we need to rein it in and have a balance of both?
Yeah, definitely. That's something that I said on a previous podcast, actually, that I think potentially some coaches can hide behind that sometimes. Let the game be the teacher, and let's play lots of games, and we'll sit on the side and not have much input. That is great, and don't get me wrong, that sort of grassroots football, that is fantastic, because you want to let them you want to let the game be the teacher. You want the kids to have a lot of fun. You want them to enjoy themselves and express themselves and have no fear of failure. But I think there's times when coaches really add value, and it for me, it's more the planning side of it. So if you can plan that game spot on so that the game is the teacher, that's great. But what are you going to do as a coach, and how can you plan your interventions to amplify that? Because there's only so much the game can teach. How can you amplify that? What challenges can you add? What questions can you ask? It doesn't have to be, right, this is what I want you to do, and you need to stand here and you need to stand there. No. Actually, can you plan your interventions? It might be just a question. It might be that you're working with maybe 2 or 3 players during that session that you want to work with them. I don't know, in an attacking session, you might be working with the number 9, solely with the number 9. So it might be, what questions can I ask him or her during this practice to really amplify the session that I'm doing.
Yeah, definitely. Excellent, mate. We couldn't answer that any better. So I just wanted your view on it, because sometimes I do feel like we go too far the other way, and like you said, some coaches do hide behind, let's just let the game be the teacher.
I think it's a fine line, and I think there's times for each. There are times where you will say, right, do you know what? There's 30 minutes. The game is set up so you are developing this aspect. Go and play it. I'll referee from the side, or I'll keep the score on the scoreboard to make things competitive, and you can do that. But like I said, there's definitely a time and a place for both, and that's what, again, if we're coming back to it, that's what makes a great coach. Do you know when where to intervene, and when and where to leave it?
Good stuff, mate. Again, that will lead us quite nicely on to the next question. Obviously, being involved in the environment at the EDA a couple of times last season, it's great. It's great what you created there. So we go, what does a good environment look like, and how did you feel that you sort of created that at Wycombe for the players to develop and flourish and obviously reach their full potential?
Yeah. In terms of, if we go the second part first, in terms of what does it look like at the EDA, I think the biggest change that I made is just putting it down on paper, getting it all collectively together in terms of, like, we've got a document that says play the EDA way, and that's sort of our Bible and what we do and our philosophy and stuff like that. It was already set. It was already there from the coaches before me, and like I said, coaches like Kirk and Chris and Rob and Brian and Manny, they've been there for years, and they've set that environment throughout. And so I've just put it on paper, if you like. I've sort of taken all of their ideas and said, yeah, that's what we do. That is what we do on a regular basis in all of our training sessions and what have you. So this is it on paper, and this is what we're going to give to the parents and say, right, listen, this is what we do. This is what you can expect. This is what we expect from the players. And yeah,
a bit like a blueprint and a reference point for everything, really, isn't it?
Yeah. That's sort of what I've brought to the table in terms of just putting it down on paper. Obviously, there's some of my ideas in there as well, but it was mostly set from the start. So yeah, in terms of how important is it to set the right environment, like I said, that has to be set from the beginning. I think that has to be set from the very outset, because getting your players to buy into that and understand that culture, if you like, that training culture is vital. So getting the right environment and setting that from the very start is very important. I think it depends on the age group as well. So we've got different sort of aspects that we're looking at throughout each age group. But that environment needs to be set for the culture has to be set throughout from under 6s to under 17s. That's always there. But then you will have certain aspects of each age group and the foundation, the youth dev, and so on. You'll have different sort of environments that you want the players to be in as well. And then for me, the environment has to be competitive. We'll come on to sort of what it looks like in the EDA in a second, but it's got to be a competitive environment, even from under 6s, under 7s. It has to be competitive, and that's what, speaking from experience, that's what they enjoy. That is what the players enjoy, especially the players that are striving to be the best. They will enjoy that competitive element. So
even in sort of the under 7 age group, I know obviously they make it competitive, and the tempo of the session just rises almost instantly without even doing anything, just because you put a bit of a competitive edge on it, and then you're getting sort of better performances out of players straight away. Which I know it's happened at Wickham. So we'll move on to the next one. So obviously at Wickham, you have a fantastic program, and I want to ask: do the coaches have a syllabus? Is there something that they have that they need to follow? And then sort of what does the planning phase look like for the sessions?
Yeah, so we do have a syllabus. We've always had a sort of syllabus to work from. Again, it's one of the things that I've sort of changed over the last few years in terms of what we're looking at and how we best sort of help the players, really. So we've gone for sort of blocks. So we've got different blocks during that syllabus. So we've got sort of 6 weeks blocks and 4 week blocks. So we work in possession for 6 weeks, out of possession for 4 weeks. And that block just allows the coaches to block plan, if you like, and something that I took from my sort of degree in my undergrad and my master's is that sort of season planning and being able to plan for the whole season, giving the coaches this from the very outset. So if they want to plan the whole season, they can do. And like you said, that you can plan 6 weeks in possession. This is what I want to get out of this 6 weeks. This is what the players will understand after this 6 weeks. And then so forth, the 4 weeks after that, and then the 6 weeks again. So it allows the coaches to plan a little bit more in depth into what they're going to help the players to develop in that time. And also we give that along to the players and the parents as well. So if they want to read, right, next week I know that I'm working on ball sharing for the under 8s or under 9s. That's what we're going to be working on this week. So there might be a little homework bit set, right? So I know that next week ball sharing, so I need to go and practice for my second best foot or whatever that is. But it allows everyone to plan and really sort of delve in deeper into the coaching process and make sure that everything's set, ready to go.
Yeah. In the hope that obviously the parents read exactly what you're delivering, and obviously it's something that maybe you don't obviously see the journey home from training, but I'd imagine if some parents have read that and they understand what's being delivered, there might be some questions within the car from the session, which is fantastic. So the parents sharing stuff with the parents is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, well, hopefully that comes across, and we want to work sort of as a whole team. It's the coaches that are delivering these sessions, but the player is part of that. The ownership of the session and stuff like that, they're part of that. And the parents, we try to get the parents involved as much as possible, because I think one of the big problems with sort of grassroots coaches, coaching and stuff like that is the sort of problem with the parents. And I feel sometimes if the parents want to be involved and they're showing that they want to be involved by, I don't know, you know what it's like, calling out on the side and giving them advice and stuff. It's actually, can we work together to help your player develop? Because that's what it's all about. It's all about those players and helping them to move on and step forward in their journey. So I'm not saying let's involve them loads and get them out here coaching and stuff like that, but actually it's important for them to understand what's going on, what we're trying to help the players to develop, what we're going to deliver on a game day or a training session, and then so that they get a little bit more of an insight, and so that they can ask questions and hopefully help with that player's development.
Yeah, brilliant, mate.
In terms of how we plan, one of the new things, and obviously you was involved with this at the beginning of the season, one of the new things that we added to the EDA this season is actually sharing all of our session plans, and doing little videos, little vlogs to say, like, this is my session plan for this week, this is what it looks like on the tactics board, this is what I'm trying to develop, and going through that process to actually, right, let's ask each other questions, let's share them with each other, because there might be an idea that you've got that I really like, and there might be a consideration that I've got for the opposition that you maybe not have thought of for that topic. So it's all sharing ideas and not being sort of too worried about putting yourself out there and saying, yeah, do you know what, this is my session, please give me advice if you want to, let me know if anything's good, bad or ugly, and just throwing yourself out there, really pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, which I know a couple of the coaches did struggle with this season, and pushing themselves out of their comfort zone to say, sort of opening themselves up, if you like, and saying, right, this is my session, this is what I'm going to deliver. So yeah, it's all great, and we try to tell our players to push themselves out of their comfort zone, but it's the coaches as well, and we're trying to develop the coaches as well as the players.
I suppose for any grassroots sort of clubs watching this, it wasn't hard for you to set up, was it? You set up in a WhatsApp group, and the coaches were able to put videos in if they wanted to. But again, like, I suppose coaches, they don't have to do videos. They can plan their session on paper and put it into a group, and then you've got a sort of a backlog of sessions, and you might see one that will work with your group and some players within your group, and you can just sort of share ideas within that, can't you?
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, it only took 2 seconds to set up. You can either share a piece of paper that you're jotting down notes on, or you can share a PowerPoint presentation that I'm sure some of them will have, and it's just open to all, really. And like, you as coaches, we learn in different ways. So one of the ways I'd prefer to see someone do a video, because that's how I will learn. I will learn by seeing him and them talking me through the session. Whereas if I read a session on a piece of paper, maybe I struggle with imagination, but I can't usually see that coming to life.
Have you, Lewis, have you still got some saved on your phone or whatever?
Yeah, I've got some.
What I'll do, I'll add it in like now. So coaches, you can watch what Lewis would do when he's planning a session for one of his age groups, just so you can get the whole shebang.
What we're going to do is we've got an attacking team. So the attacking team here will be the blue team. You might need to zoom in a little bit. The attacking team is going to be the blue team. What their job is to do is to score versus the goalkeeper. And if they do score, brilliant. They get to keep the ball, collect it, turn and play against the green team up on this side. If they don't score, what we're going to do, if the ball goes out for a throw in, like we said, for the last sort of 4 weeks and going up into October half term, we're working on playing out from the back. So this gives us plenty of repetition. We've done the attack versus defence sessions for the last few weeks. I think that in terms of the shape that we're playing now, we understand the shape to play out, which is fantastic. And this is just going to give us a little bit more repetition on that. Now, when the ball goes out for a throw-in or the ball goes out for a goal kick, we're going to restart with the goalkeeper every time. And then the red team, it's their job to play their way out. As you can see, we've got 5 blue attackers versus 4 red defenders. And the target man is in this zone that's locked in the middle zone. The Greens have got one in there as well for quick transition, but the Reds are trying to play into their target man. Can we play out into our target man, and then the red team will become the attacker, and the blue team will pop 1 player in the target zone and defend 4 versus 5. So it's an overload practice, it's short and sharp, the high tempo, but there's plenty of opportunities in there to play out from the back. And guys, I wanted to show you this template because this can be used for a million different topics. You can use it pressing from the front, playing out from the back. You can use it in transition in possession, transition out of possession. You can use it for every different topic you can think of. So a really good session that I'm going to use this week. That's going to be the whole practice. This one's going to be the part practice, and we'll move back into that after. But this is working on midfield rotation. So as you can see, the numbers in here, 6, 8 and 10. And what we're looking for is you can't all 3 players be in the same zone. So I know Kirk is doing this practice for next week, but it's one that I saw of Kirk a couple of years ago now that I'm still using. It's a fantastic practice to work on movement, to create space, and also to develop their sort of spatial awareness. When am I in an area where potentially I'm harming my teammates' space by being in that area, and where can I go to maybe assist my teammates? So in terms of the red line going across, that's our halfway line, and you're not allowed all 3 players from your team in the same half. That there would cause the blue team to receive the ball from us instead. So yeah, like I said, not too much technical detail for today. This is just our session.
That for planning, but we've also done it on reflection as well. So I think that's a really powerful tool to come away and say, right, and again, you might want to share one. I don't know if you will or not, but there's a couple of videos that I've done in the car, literally straight after the session. This was good. This didn't work. This is what I might try next time with that topic or age group or whatever it is. And because it allows you to really look back at that and think, yeah, do you know what, that didn't work? Because you know what it's like. Sometimes you get in the car home and you always reflect, but sometimes you get in the car home, you listen to the radio and they talk about Liverpool winning the league, and you get sidetracked and you forget all about it. But there you've got that sort of video there to
a million percent. Yeah, I'm guilty of it. I'll plan, I'll do, and then I won't review. It would just sort of be forgotten almost. So that is powerful. And like I said, if you record a little video, or you don't even have to do a video, you can just record a voice note on your phone. And you can just sort of reference back to it later, later day or even the next day, and then you start to think a bit more about what you've delivered. Yeah,
definitely. And like I said, it's been a really powerful tool this season for myself, looking at that and trying to help the coaches to develop at the same time as the players developing. That was sort of one of the aspects that I wanted to improve in terms of the EDA itself. And I think that we're definitely getting there anyway with that sort of idea, and sharing ideas and sharing topics and coaching sessions.
Definitely, mate. Right, we'll move on. So last few questions. So all I'm going to ask you is someone that's inspired you and why.
What a question.
Can be a player. So obviously, especially your early ages of football. Like if there was someone that inspired you to love the game, or if there's a grassroots sort of person, or even family member, whatever.
Again, I took a lot of time to think about this question and reflecting on what has happened in terms of my journey and the twists and turns that it's taken all the way through. There was a million people on this list to try and whittle it down to a couple. But I guess if you start from the very beginning, sort of my parents have always been great role models. and people that I've been inspired by from their work ethic and stuff like that. And my grandparents the same. If I think about coaches, sort of in terms of my coaching roles, there's sort of Kirk. Obviously, he's been a massive role model and someone that's inspired me from the beginning. Rivo has done exactly the same.
Yeah.
My teachers that I've had, sort of, they've guided me and helped me with my journey. If you look at the professional sort of game, I guess there's a million different players that I could name, but coaches wise, I love Pep Guardiola. I guess everyone's going to say that though, aren't they? But I love Pep Guardiola and how enthusiastic he is in communicating with the players. And that's at the top level. So I look up to him. But yeah, there's a million different people that I could name on this list, but it's crazy when you stop and really think about your journey and how many sort of twists and turns there's been, and how many people have affected that journey without even knowing.
Yeah.
So in terms of like sort of when I going back to when I first started coaching at sort of 16, 17, I got to 17. At the end of my A levels, then obviously that was the end of my course, and the sort of guidance was, right, go to university and go that route. And obviously by that time I'd already done 2 years at sixth form. So I was like, what do I do? And again, it's sort of teachers saying, yeah, do you know what, you can do an extra year, you can do this and that. So it's mad how you look back on things and actually that's changed potentially my whole life, if you like.
One aspect.
Yeah. But yeah, it's crazy that when you look back and think how many people have affected your journey without even probably realizing, and that's, I guess, the goal for us, isn't it, as coaches, can we have that impact on somebody else? Can
That's
we
it, mate.
that role model and inspire somebody else, or help to change someone's sort of life for the better?
There could be one thing that happens within a session, or one little impact you can have on a foundation phase player, and they're inspired for life, and they're going to want to improve. They're going to want to get better. They're going to want to follow their dreams, and that's what our job is, I suppose.
Yeah. Again, I was listening to a podcast with Rivo and Andy Ritchie the other day. And he was talking about some of the players that he's worked with in the past, and like Theo Walcott putting him in his book and stuff like that. That is crazy, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it's mad.
Imagine that, and having that impact on players, but also as people, having an impact on them as when you stop and really think about your journey and how many sort of twists and turns there's been, and how many people have affected that journey without even knowing. So in terms of like sort of when I going back to when I first started coaching at sort of 16, 17, I got to 17. At the end of my A levels, then obviously that was the end of my course, and the sort of guidance was, right, go to university and go that route. And obviously by that time I'd already done 2 years at sixth form. So I was like, what do I do? And again, it's sort of teachers saying, yeah, do you know what, you can do an extra year, you can do this and that. So it's mad how you look back on things and actually that's changed potentially my whole life, if you like.
One aspect.
Yeah. But yeah, it's crazy that when you look back and think how many people have affected your journey without even probably realizing, and that's, I guess, the goal for us, isn't it, as coaches, can we have that impact on somebody else?
That's it, mate.
That role model and inspire somebody else, or help to change someone's sort of life for the better.
There could be one thing that happens within a session, or one little impact you can have on a foundation phase player, and they're inspired for life, and they're going to want to improve. They're going to want to get better. They're going to want to follow their dreams, and that's what our job is, I suppose.
Yeah. Again, I was listening to a podcast with Rivo and Andy Ritchie the other day. And he was talking about some of the players that he's worked with in the past, and like Theo Walcott putting him in his book and stuff like that. That is crazy, isn't it? Like,
Yeah,
Just
it's mad.
to imagine that and having that impact on players but also as people, having an impact on them as people and helping to guide them throughout their journey, whether that is as a player or whether that is as a person, having an impact on their journey and hopefully helping them to develop and progress as a person and a player.
Be the best version of themselves, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely.
Good stuff, mate. Right. So last question, and then we'll go on some little quick fire ones. All right.
Yep.
So we got, what advice would you give a young coach wanting to start a career in football coaching?
Okay. For me, I would say just understand, never stop learning. Nobody knows everything. There's always more to learn. There's always bits that you can pick off of coaches that have been coaching for 20 years. There's parts that you'll be taking from their sessions, but there's also parts that you can take from a coach that's just started, 1 or 2 sessions in. There'll always be things that you can pick up on, good behaviours and good mannerisms and whatever it is, but always be open to learning and taking on new information. Like I said, who have I been inspired by? There's hundreds. There's literally hundreds of coaches, players, and it doesn't have to be in that sort of formal, right, I'm going to watch you and I'm going to write down notes. No. Sometimes you'll be inspired by the players themselves. There might be something that little Jimmy says that you think, that was amazing. Or something that he does. You can be inspired by anyone. And never stop learning. Never ever stop learning. Another thing I would say is just watch as many coaches as you can. Go and try and broaden your knowledge and of really how to coach as well as the football side. I know a lot of coaches get caught up on understanding football first, getting to know the sort of tactical and technical understanding. That's something that they always find or always maybe think that that's the most important part. But really learning how to coach, knowing your craft, understanding how to develop the learning of a player. You're a teacher in essence, really. I suppose one way to look at it, you could know the game inside out, but if you're not great with people and understanding people and how people learn, then they're not going to marry up, are they? No, and I've seen pro players come in and coach, and you think you're a professional. You've learned not everything, but you've learned a lot about football. Your understanding of football is second to none. But you can't coach. And like we said before, there's 3 main elements: coaching, kids, football. If you've got to have all 3 to be a good coach. So if there's part of that you don't know, if you don't know kids, if you've never worked with kids before, you've got to learn how kids operate. And like I said, when I first came in and Chris was like, "Yeah, you're coaching under 7s." Wow, I'd never worked with under 7s before in my life. That was a huge learning curve. Like, what do they do? What motivates them? And it was very quick. You've got to be very quick and on your toes to see. Yeah, do you know what? That's how they operate. That's what gets them going. And Chris was a great role model and someone inspired me in that sense. How to interact with kids of that age and how to get them motivated is really important. And the third point that I've put down on my notes in terms of coaches sort of wanting a career is just ask as many questions as possible.
Yeah, definitely.
Asking questions and delving into the knowledge of your peers, coaches that are in the position that you want to be in, coaches that have been doing it for a long period of time, and also just coaches in general. What are their sort of struggles? What do they need to develop, and how have they developed in their journey? What sort of key aspects have they sort of found difficult or found easy? Asking as many questions as you can into how to coach, if it's how to. I know a lot of the questions with some of the Wycombe coaches at the start of the year was down to sort of managing behaviour. which I found I didn't realise that was sort of an area that they wanted a lot of development on. But managing behaviour might be sort of the thing that you're struggling with. So ask as many questions as you can.
Yeah, excellent, mate.
Yeah, sorry, I can remember asking sort of when I first started with the under-8s, it was quite a feisty group, a great group of players. I think sort of from that group itself, I think maybe probably from the group that I started with, probably half of them have been signed now. But they had that personality from the beginning. Sort of dealing with those mavericks, if you like. They're sometimes they can control a whole session and you don't have a say in it. And then sort of asking questions of the coaches around you. I wasn't too proud. I wasn't saying, no, do you know what, I'm not going to ask this question because he'll feel this way about me. No, I went to ask some of the coaches at Wickham. I said, listen, this group's a difficult group. What would you do? And there's teachers in there as well. So like Rob, for example, Rob's a teacher. So Rob, how would you deal with this? And he said, right, I've got this difficult player in my group. This is how I deal with it. And it just helps with your development. So ask as many questions as you can.
Brilliant, mate. Good stuff. Right, we've got so last one is sort of aspirations for you. What sort of the aspirations for you moving forward? Might be at Wickham, or it might be for yourself. Just in general.
Yeah, sort of immediately. I want to do my A license. So I'd like to do my A license. Potentially the Advanced Youth Award as well. That's sort of two qualifications that I want to get sort of very little in the near future anyway. To go on to those, and I'm always trying to develop. I'm always trying to learn new things, and I don't ever want to stand still. So obviously it's a difficult part of everyone's life at the moment in terms of being on lockdown and this coronavirus scene, but it's just trying not to stand still in your development and keep pushing on. So they're two things that I sort of want to do. In terms of career-wise, I guess I'm interested in exploring sort of academy football now. We obviously run a program that mimics academy football. Apart from the games program, we are sort of mimicking academy football at what we do, and we do it at a very high level. But now I'd love to move into an academy role where, do you know what? Actually, I'm in charge of these 15, 16, 17, 18 players. That is my role for the whole season. So now I can really delve deeper into, right, what do I know as a coach? How can I develop these players over this period of time? Rather than at the moment, my role is developing the coaches, developing the players, organisation, sort of running the games program. It's all sort of around coaching, which is great, and I love it. But now I'd love to, like I said, kick on and progress with my personal coaching journey.
Definitely.
I feel as if sometimes, or at the moment, I'm maybe sort of reached a plateau where I've stopped developing myself as a coach. You never stop developing, but you know what I mean. Stop developing at the rate I maybe potentially did when I was coaching constantly. So I want to get back to that moment now and really kick on.
Amazing, mate. Perfect. Right. Just to finish, obviously, like, it's been great having you on, mate. And your knowledge. How old are you now?
27.
So yeah, your knowledge for obviously your age is outstanding, and obviously I'm sure you'll go on to great things. So we're just going to finish on a couple of little quick fire questions. Nothing, I think there's 4. Just be interested. So, Messi or Ronaldo?
Ronaldo.
Okay, good. We'll go league champions or a cup final win.
Cup final winners.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't beat that feeling. Cup final day is the one.
Suited and booted.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with cup final day. You can't go wrong. Obviously, league champions is great because you've done it over a prolonged period of time and you've worked extremely hard for it. But I just don't think you can beat that feeling of cup final day and winning it is just it's that feeling that everyone wants. I think you don't usually get that too much with winning the league, but you definitely get that with winning the cup.
Good stuff, mate. Premier League or La Liga?
Premier League.
Premier League, yeah.
Yeah.
And last one, mate. Route 1 or through the thirds?
It's a tough one. I would say first forwards. That's what I'm going to go with.
That's the coaching, yeah, mate. First play forwards if you can. Love it, mate.
And if not, through the thirds. There we go.
Good stuff, mate. Mate, again, thanks for joining us. I'm sure many people are going to love this, and hopefully see you soon, mate.
No worries. Cheers, pal.
Cheers, Lewis.